Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Green Tent Circle. We have an amazing special guest today that most of us already know because Karambu, although she lives in Kenya and is from Kenya, she travels the world. So many of us have met her in the United States and at world gatherings and at Gather the Women and the Commission on the Status of Women in New York. So it's a real treat. And she's just finished a one-year fellowship at Notre Dame on inspired leadership initiatives. And so she just finished up and she will be going back to her wonderful place that we're going to talk about. And she is the founder and the president of international peace initiatives and organizations that work to mitigate the impact of HIV, AIDS, poverty, and violence in the lives of women and children. She has used her extensive academic background and international experience working in many countries to design and implement models of regeneration that inspires well-being and flourishing for people, place, and planet. Karambu is a visionary, proactivist, compassionate, committed, formidable force for change and an inspiration to all who meet her. So this is a special treat and welcome. And what we're going to do is we're going to see ourselves around a fire, a very ancient fire. And we're all sitting around the fire. And Karambu and I will start the conversation, but then we're going to be asking you later on to be a part of the conversation. Before we start our conversation, I just want to have us all center in. So I'm going to do the Tibetan bowl for centering that reaches our heart chakras. So just sit back, see yourself around the fire, and enjoy. We live in a world of so much chaos, so much climate crisis, so much violence, so much fear, so many lies that are told to us by the press, that to have these islands of sanity, to have these places where we hear the truth, we gain from wisdom that is spoken, and we are bonded by love and compassion for one another. We're very lucky. And we hope that this interview, this time with Karambu, Ringera, will be that time for you, for all who listen to the recording and all who are with us today. That is our wish. We're sitting around a fire. It's quiet. And I'm just going to start the conversation, and we don't know where it's going to go. But with Karambu, I always learn something. So I had not been to your place, but what I know of your place, of the orphans who are now fantastic students and leaders, the widows from AIDS who are leaders, the women who are thriving, and a place that you took that was very dry, arid land and is now lush and is producing food and beauty. So, Karambu, how do you do all of it? And what do you love doing the most? You don't have to prioritize it.
Thank you so much for having me here today. And it's an honor, it's a privilege to be able to share my story with all of you. And you asked me how I do it. I don't do it, we do it. Love light that lives within all of us. And whether you're an orphan, whether you're a woman with a terminal disease, whether you're whatever our circumstances, because we are not our circumstances, but we are divine beings. When we tap into the power of who we are, we step into that space of our amazingness, of our enoughness. And from that place, there's nothing we cannot accomplish. I am an African, a Kenyan, a woman living in a very patriarchal community where men can hardly stand hearing words from a woman's mouth. And so when we've done all the things that we've done, they don't know what to think, they don't know what to say. But I am very clear that this is my calling. Therefore, it is not my doing. It is, it's, I don't think I have a life that I live. There's a life calling to be lived through me. And when I pay attention to the life calling to be lived through me, then it shows the way. And that's how we have worked with women who, when I met them, they thought they were going to die any day. They told me, we want you to know when we die, our children will be yours. And I was a student and I didn't even have a house or anything. And I said, wow, it's okay. I'll take your children, but don't die quickly. Like hang in there with me then so that we can do this dance together. And I thank God because many of them are still alive, telling the story of their overcoming, telling the story of their becoming who they are meant to be, and now taking care of themselves, taking care of their children, and really flourishing. I wish I could bring the women here for you to hear their stories, but when you come, when you come to Kenya, not I'm saying when, not if, when you come to Kenya, I will be so happy to have you meet the women and hear their stories because it's from their own mouths that the power of their words, the power of what they have accomplished in their lives is something that everybody should hear because each one of us has a certain kind of wasteland. For me, it was the wasteland of the condition of the people, like children without parents, orphans, women living with a disease like HIV and AIDS, and the land that they gave us to build the children's home. When we went around the community for 2 years asking for communities, churches to give us a free piece of land where we could build the children's home. And everybody just telling us, no, except one where the children's home is now. But the piece of land they gave us was actually a piece of rocky ground, literally rocky ground. And I was told that someone had tried buying it and got his wife there to do some cultivation, and they couldn't get anything from there because it was just a piece of rocky land. So these forms of wastelands, both environmental and human as in when we see a child who is an orphan, we name and mark them orphan. That means something. It is an excluding terminology. You are this thing. And for us, when you are an orphan, people are like, oh, you poor thing, what did you do to be so unlucky to lose your parents? So an orphan is a name that lays the burden of losing one's parents on the child. It's a judgment. It's a judgment. And when the child internalizes this, then they go around the world as, oh, poor me, this and the other. And that is how they live their lives. And then they don't thrive. They never flourish because their bedrock, their taproot is, I'm not enough. I'm not worthy. Something is wrong with me. Why did I lose my parents? And so our work has been about turning around that narrative. Language is a powerful tool. And language is part of the enslaving systems that human beings have created. In my local language, there is no word for an orphan because a child could never be parentless. When there were uncles, aunties, and other friends of or age mates of the parents. And so a child could never be parentless. But that's not how we look at it today. So actually what I have done in the home is that I have used an Afrocentric systems thinking mindset to approach how I work with the children. That I am their mom, I am their mother. Like I am their mother. They call me mom. And the home is not an institution. It is a children's home. It is not an orphanage. And the kids who live there are brothers and sisters, and we treat each other as brother and sister. And turning around that narrative has been so empowering, so powerful, because I can be away for a year, like I have been away for a year. And with the executive director and a social worker, all the other people who are surrounding the children, I'm not talking about the other workers who are doing other things. They are people who have come through our program in one way or another. When the children finish high school, they wait for 1 year before they go to college or the next level. They serve at the children's home for 1 year, for that 1 year. So the cooks, the house mother, call them the house sister and house brother, are our own children. And they work with the house mother, and they work with a social worker, a professional social worker. And in that way, we are able to hold all of our 83 children, because the university students will support the high school children, and the high school children will support the kids who are in primary school. And together, we hold each other. Yesterday, when I was talking to Naomi, who is our executive director, she told me a story, a recent story. So one of the kids, he's about probably 10, was talking to another who is his age mate, and one of them did something off. So the other one was telling him, they didn't know Naomi was hearing this. So they were just doing their children's stuff, and says, do you want to be told to go away until mom comes? and then mom will come for you. And for all the ones who have gone, have you seen mom go for them? So what happens is that when a child does not abide by our home values, we ask them to go to their relative. If they have a relative, we look for someone where they will go, someone in their family. And then normally if this happens when I'm not there, and then they will be told, when I go back, I will go for them. So when I come back and I hear the story, and if the story is really they were not respectful, they didn't do what they were supposed to do, and if you act out like that because I'm not there, that is not right. So we ask them to go to stay with a relative. I will continue paying their school fees, but they cannot stay at the children's home. So this child recognized that and said, look, the two people who left 2 years ago, they haven't come back. She won't come for you. So please behave if you don't want not to come back here. Number two, they have seen those kids who've gone and have tried to come back have not done well. Because my kids come from very vulnerable backgrounds. So even when I'm sending him or her back to their grandmother, I know it's not going to be easy. That is why I choose to pay school fees, but then let him stay or let her stay at home so that they realize why they're at catch. Because I want them to own this place as the place that is holding a place for them to break the cycle of poverty in their own lives and in the lives of their family. And if a kid doesn't see that, I cannot force them to see it. But if they go and live that life, then they'll understand why they are at catch. And so we have created, in my intention, I have created a space where a kid understands who they are. They understand where they have come from. They understand why they are where we are. And they choose to dance with us, to work and walk with us, so that they can turn around the circumstances in their lives and in the family. Those 5, every child understands from the age of 7, because we start talking about it from the age of 3 when they come to the children's home. And so you'll be surprised. You'll find like a 4-year-old kid who will tell you why they like catch or why they love catch. They will tell you what their dream is, and they will tell you what they are doing to achieve that dream. So for me, what I have learned through this process is there are systems through which we live, and they've conditioned us, programmed us in certain ways. And who I am is a product of that conditioning. And if I'm not aware, then I'm living the system's life. The conditioning is what carries me through life, reacting, not responding to life. When I realize that I am love and light, then love enables me to respond to life rather than reacting to life and my circumstances through my conditioning. And that is what I want my kids to understand, that they are not their circumstances, they are not an orphan. Even if they don't have parents, God is their parent, and so they are not orphans. We turn around the narrative. And in that way, we've been able to have the kids focus on what is important in their life. This year, this month actually, one of our kids finished his university. That will be our 61st graduate, and I have so many others who've done diplomas. However, people ask me whether that is something to measure success, and I'm shocked that someone would ask me whether attaining a degree, because it is. Education is very important in the life of a person, especially for us who live in these places that are called developing. which is another story that I can share, because what is developing? What is development? And according to who? According to who defines my condition where I am in Africa? Understanding language and how it has been used is very important, because in Africa we have a saying, until the lion learns to write, the story always glorifies the hunter. Until the lion learns to write, the story always glorifies the hunter. Those in power, those with the language, those with the printing press are the historians. Indeed, it's his story. But time has come now for us, for her story, so that together we can do our story. Okay? Her story is very important, and we need to speak it. That is why we have this circle here around this fire. The fire within us is calling to burn all those things that have impeded our goddessness. It's calling forth, because that is what is going to save this collapsing world. It's a goddessness. Damn us, goddessness in all of us. We need to wake up to it. We need to wake up to it. I want to be able to write my story in my own words. I want my kids to be able to write their own story, not from the place of the societal naming and marking. And so with the women, they may have a disease. I don't even call it terminal anymore, because most of the women I started with are still alive, and they're still living positively with HIV. And so recognizing, this is the third time I'm saying this already, I'm not my circumstances. Recognizing that and owning your enoughness. I tell my kids, you're whole, pure, complete, and enough. Whole, pure, complete, and enough. And no religion, no nothing should tell you, tradition, that you came to this world, like sinful, with something wrong. God doesn't create no garbage. We came here pure, whole. Our sinness is man's translation of whatever. But as far as I'm concerned, I am whole, I am pure, I'm complete, and I'm enough as I am. I'm unconditional love, because that's what I came from. And that is what I have taught the kids to remember. These things are in us. We are all love and light. We have forgotten. And so my calling is to hold a space for someone else to remember, or for the love within them to remember, so that then this person can step into their love and light. Because that's all we are. That's all we are. Someone asked me recently, what's your purpose? I said, it is to love and be loved. That's my purpose, to love and to be loved. So every time I walk out, it's not Karambu, my accomplishments and all these things that walk out of the door every day. When I walk out of my door, it is love and light that is walking out of my door every day. And who I am then outside there, if I'm authentic in my intention, I don't even need to talk about it. People will see it, people will feel it, people will know it. I don't have to talk about it. How I be speaks, because it calls forth from within the other that which they know they are and have forgotten, but they will recognize it when I be that, and I will recognize it when someone else be that.
Well, I heard this wonderful phrase: if you don't like the reality, the stories that are being told, change the storytellers. And that's what we're doing. We're saying everyone to step into their love, their light, and tell your story through the love and light. Yeah. And so the importance of each one of us going within, and you've always done that, Karambu. You've always said we start with the inner work
Mhm.
and then the outer work. And then it is, it is congruent.
Yeah.
But when I don't do that, then, and my ego is there, then I can do damage. Then I get back into that old world view of first world, second world, third world, separations that have prioritized diversity instead of seeing like all of nature. Diversity is the most wonderful thing we have. I love always what you say from your heart. I always love what you keep learning and repeating. And I'm really loving how that is modeled with the children. It isn't do this, do that, but this is how we're going to live our life in our school and in our home. And these are our values. And then when you graduated from high school, you spend 1 year of being able to be of service to the school, to the home. I mean, that is just remarkable. And tell me again, how many students are now have graduated and also from college? Not that that is success, and I really love that we're redefining what success is. Because if we define the success as degrees and titles instead of how we live out our own love and light with one another, we're just maintaining the status quo.
You're right. Success is not what we accumulate, or wealth. Wealth is not what we accumulate. It is how wealthy and rich our lives are in terms of serving a cause bigger than ourselves, but also serving ourselves. In mainstream teaching, we are told that we do things for people. That's empowerment. Empowerment is what we do for other people. And then sometimes we don't give them the tools that they need to carry that empowerment to the end. So we say, don't give people fish, teach them how to fish. I live by a river, and you give me fishing tools to fish in the ocean. And of course, I don't have as big fishes like in the ocean, in the river, or vice versa. I live next to the ocean. You give me tools that are fit for fishing in a river. So I have the tools, but they're the wrong tools. So I say, indeed, don't give people fish. Teach them how to fish within the right context. The context is very important. When I say, okay, when you come and tell me, oh, we'd like to support one of your children to pay school fees, how much is it? I tell you it's $25 a year or whatever. And you give me that money to pay school fees for the child. But we haven't looked at the context within which that child is living. They are living with a grandmother who is jobless. They have to go fetch water from 30 minutes away. They have to go to the forest to fetch firewood. And this kid has to do their homework. They have to wash their clothes. They have to do so many things. And so when I pay school fees and the grandmother is sick, that kid won't go to school. The kid will be sent home for a pencil. They can't even afford a pencil. And the grandmother doesn't have a job. And the grandmother will tell the kid, I don't understand these things about your education. You go and tell the teacher, wherever. So the kid walks back to school. They go and try to explain to the teacher. The teacher may be understanding or not. Then the next time they come to school very dirty, the uniform hasn't been washed because the grandmother is unwell. The kid is sent away home again. So in the end, when the kid keeps going back home and there's no one at home, they will start, when they're sent away from school, they start walking around the community. Other people start seeing the kid and they start telling their kids, don't play with that child. I see him walking around. She's not a good child, or she's not a good child. Very soon, they start being excluded from his peers, because they don't want to play with him. He's dirty. He doesn't go to school. And the same happens when they go to church. So this kid is actually pushed to the edge, and they go to the streets. And who do we blame? The child. We see it is the fault of the kid. And it's our fault. We are the ones who did not respond to the plight of this child. So you will come and tell me, oh, we've been paying school fees for this child, but because my intervention was not contextual, that child is not in school. And you're asking me, what were we doing? So when I realized that early enough, then I started actually working with the families, working with the faith places where they go, and creating this understanding. But then I realized that because people who are reacting to life rather than responding to it don't even get it, even when you talk to them. So I started working with my kids. Because one day my kids came home from church, and they came and told me, Mom, we want to talk to you. Are we all HIV positive? I said, where did you get that from? Someone in church told them something to do with you children of AIDS, HIV and AIDS. So that's why they came to ask me that question. So even in places where you think there is safety for these kids, it's not there. So when they came and asked me that question, I decided to change the game, and I started working with them, because the question I asked them is, you look so disturbed. Are you telling me that if you knew I was HIV positive, you would change your attitude towards me? So why are you so shocked if someone said that to you? It gave me an opportunity to talk to them about HIV. And fortunately, none of my kids who are HIV positive was in that group that morning. So I was able to talk freely and to say, but recognize, even if you have HIV and AIDS, you are a human being, you're whole, complete, and enough. I love you, God loves you, and we won't stop loving you because of that. In the same vein, if you know someone is HIV positive, you shouldn't be bullying them or laughing at them, because they are God's children, and we need to love them and support them. So you can imagine how you felt today. I'm telling them how you felt today. If any one of you was actually HIV positive, how would you have felt? So how you're feeling is how someone else will feel if they really have that situation. And it's not their choice. It's not their choice. So understand. We started that conversation, and from there on, no one came to tell me other stories about this thing. And the kids that we have that are HIV positive, we've lived with them very comfortably. Everybody knows how to work with them, not through judgment, but through understanding. People don't need sympathy. People just need understanding.
Yeah.
That's it. So that is how we resolved that.
So understanding the context, understanding the environment. I mean, I wish this would be happening in our country, in the United States. So many children are put in foster homes or are homeless or on the street. And then they become not only the victims, but they're blamed.
Yeah.
And they're blamed for all the things you just talked about. So changing worldwide, it has to be worldwide. What you're doing in your part of the world is very similar to what is needed throughout the world. And that is understanding each individual as love and light, and finding out why their circumstances have created, and they're not their circumstances, but the context of their circumstances have created a problem for us to be able to help, however that could be. And a lot of times, like you're doing, it's just telling them you are loved by God, you are whole. And um, and one other thing I love, and this was a program, not something I did because I like creative dance. I like to be in my body. And it was like, we're so many trillions of cells all working together. Just imagine it, trillions of cells working together. And we are whole and changing every nanosecond, right? Every nanosecond. And being able to do that. So that whole thing you talked about dancing, we're dancing not only within ourselves, but then come out as that dance of love and light with others. And that's what you're doing. And I applaud you for that.
Yes, that is what we are doing. I have come to wonder whether there isn't a particular plan or intention to have people think and do things in the same way, because it is easy to control people. Then you will find in religion, in capitalism, in development rhetoric and all these things, there seems to be an underlying intention to think that globalization, probably that's what they call globalization, is everybody can think and be like the same way. And you talked about diversity, that the wealth, even if you learn from nature, I like to emulate nature a lot. My teacher has been nature. There's a lot of diversity, and one thing feeds another, one thing heals the other, and things like that. And if we go by man's attempt, and I mean man's attempt to control nature, and so drive it the way they want it to go, and that is what has been happening, we can see the disaster that is the result. And it's gonna get worse if we don't wake up and start speaking out and doing things differently. Today in my country, 2 years ago, there's a bill that was passed to say that I cannot exchange seeds. Like if I plant corn, traditional corn seeds or beans seeds, before, when my grandmother used to farm, they used to plant these seeds, harvest them, select the best seeds, and keep them for planting the next season. They've passed a bill to ban exchange of seeds in Kenya. Now there's a system to do something else about living conditions. They have started talking about animals, cow dung. Cow dung, animal dung, is what we've used for manure all these centuries. Now they are saying it is producing a lot of methane in the atmosphere, and that's where the climate change issues are coming from. Because they want to control the seed and the fertilizer that you use to buy to grow these crops. And when you plant their hybrid seeds, we are harvesting them with weevils. So you put a lot of chemicals on to preserve the seed. They don't last more than 3 years. So you're forced to sell. And then there's a lot of chemical that you've put to preserve it from being demolished by the weevils. And people don't clean the corn when they take it to the miller to make flour. So cancer cases are really escalating in my country. There was a vaccine that was introduced for women between the ages of 18 to 35 to prevent tetanus and stuff like that. Reproductive able women. That was about 5-6 years ago. Today, the doctors are telling us the largest crisis they are finding in the health system is infertility, and no one is talking about it. I share that here so that if you are not aware of it, you start looking and learning, because you're our partners in this. People talk of partners in crime. No, you're partners in love.
Mm-hmm.
To change what is happening globally. There is a big move to control the population of Africa. Africa, we have a lot of spaces. It's not spaces for people to live that we lack. We lack good leadership.
Yeah.
To
Right.
create an environment that when resources, food is available, it can get to everybody. It is not the people that people are interested in, it is the resources. And that is why very many parts of Africa don't have peace, because of the minerals that are being extracted from these places. I, as a Kenyan and as a person who is speaking about people waking up, because you're not just going to be waking up in Africa or in America or in Europe, or it's everybody. Because they said when they came for the Jews, I kept silent. When they came for the South Americans, I kept silent. So everybody was taken, but when they come for me, who will speak for me?
Mm-hmm.
We are in this all together. What happens in Africa affects everybody else. What happens in Austria affects everybody else everywhere. So the calling is what's calling is a different heart and mindset. The systems have taught us just to do think and to think and do, so that we can extract. It's just about extracting, about consuming, about accumulating. So even if I have 10 cars, if I have 19 mansions, if I have I don't know what, I will leave it all here. I think the challenge for me has been, rather than how many items I leave I leave on this earth, it is, do I leave it a better place? Do I leave my kid in a better earth? So the calling is, the answers are not without. The answers are not outside of us. We have everything that we need. We have been given everything that we need to transform the circumstances of our life, to change. And when I change, can you imagine if all of us sat here for 10 minutes and tapped into the divine frequency of love for saving of a child who might be just about to be killed or molested by some crazy person? That will change, that will shift that happening. I totally believe we have what it takes to transform what is taking place in the world. And that's why I share this, so that you know, if someone in India is, if a small girl is being trafficked in India, I cannot sit in Kenya comfortably saying, I have this home, I'm taking care of these kids, there's nothing I can do. I have something to do. And I don't have to get into a plane and go there. I can sit where I am and be silent and connect to the divine essence that connects all of us and everything. And that will change, will shift that event. And we can do it. But we have to be here at home within and recognize we have everything we need. Recognize we are whole, pure, complete, and enough. And fear is the enemy that is being used to separate us. Fear. We create a whole host of stories that are not right, that are not correct. So love, like light chases away darkness. And you see, in darkness, you don't have to stand there talking. Like darkness, go away, darkness, go away. No, just take a match or whatever it is you have, light a candle. The darkness is gone. It's the same thing with fear. When I bring the light that is love, fear just evaporates. It's that simple, but when we don't know, it looks like, oh my God, we can't even move. But it is so easy, it's so simple. I can't tell you that I harness it every time, but I know when I do, it is amazing. So my journey is to keep remembering, because it's in forgetting that we forget. So I remember. I have to keep remembering. It's there. It's within me. It's within all of us. And when we bring it together, it just explodes into this amazing, amazing powerfulness of beingness. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I also love that, our teacher is nature. And I also think when we're healthy, when we have a healthy planet, we're healthy. And by us being healthy, we can have a healthy planet, which is to go nature's way, not Monsanto, not all these chemicals that were made during World War II that were for warfare, but to go back to our natural, native planting ways and having reciprocal relationships. And that's what I feel that I have with you, is that, when I share my love, you share your love. When I share something I know, you share something you know. And that's what we can do all around the world. I think that is what the sisterhood is about. That's how patriarchy will be taken down. Because it's patriarchy wants to separate us. They want to say, oh, well, the Africa needs to change. They need to cut down on their population. No, we need to cut down on our consumption, especially in America. We are the biggest polluters. So we're changing the story through the wisdom, that our collective wisdom that we know. And your message that you keep repeating, we need to have it because it becomes who we are, that love and light. And so I'd love to have people open up their mics, if that's okay. And because they've been sitting around this fire, hearing about wonderful, wonderful wisdom, wonderful, that is right there. It's free. It's free. Everybody has access to it. Nobody can own it. Nobody can stop it. Nobody can stop it. And so it's here. And when we claim that ourselves and collectively, we're an incredible power of force of love and light that will change the world. And the fear will be gone, and our candle will be the light in the darkness, as this circle is. So others who'd like to unmute and join this circle with Karambu, and those who were late, go to her website, go to ours on the Illuminator. When we record this, she's going to have a lot of photos of her place. She's right now in America, having finished a year-long fellowship. But someday, I've been to Africa 7 times, Karambu, but I didn't know you, or I would have come to your place. And I have to say, I love Africa. And every time I was there, I was always with the women. I was with always grassroots women. I got to learn their songs, their prayers, their way of life. And I come home to America and I say, we have so much to learn from African women. They do so much more with less. We have all this stuff, all this money, and we're sitting on our duffs. So, but enough of my preaching. I want to open it up to others.
I would like to ask a question. I've been busy taking notes here and wondering when you're going to write your book, and get the word out. You are so articulate and you so get to the point. And I would love to see more of it. And also, when you coming to California is my other question.
Invite me. I'm going to Hawaii in August to do a workshop there, to facilitate a workshop there. And between August and October, I will be in the States. So if you invite me, I will come.
I will work on that. I work on that. We're going to be here until when?
So now I'm going home tomorrow. My program
okay.
is over. I'm coming back in August. And I'll be here until October.
Good. Okay, got it.
So
now, how about your book?
We'll talk about it when I come, because actually the first one, I started the first one while here, but that's about the children.
Yes, yes.
The second one is about development. And the third one is my life, autobiography or memoir or whatever. So the one has started. So you're right on.
Good, good. Thank you, love.
Okay, thank you.
Karambu, your stories are so great to hear. I'm from Brazil, so I connect with what you're being through. But what I think you made the connection very clear to us of this exploitation connected with big industries like pharmacy, like agriculture. So how do you think we can change that? Because Africa and somehow Brazil are still colonies. Their resources are still being used. And as I heard from a woman from Sierra Leone, the richness of the first world, let's put it this way, belongs actually from those colonized countries. Mm-hmm. So how can we change that? What can we do?
Thank you. That's an amazing question. And it's one that I've been thinking about, because the problem is so deep because it is embedded in the systems. Remember, I talked about the systems. Education has been a major tool in colonizing our thinking. So first of all, they came and studied Africa. I'll use Africa, for example. South America is the same. And then they went back and said, these people know what they are doing. They know who they are. The best way to break them apart is to show them that their systems are evil, they are wrong, blah, blah, blah. So they came with the Bible. Then soon enough, they came with trade, and then they came with a gun. The Bible, someone said, religion is the opium of the masses, and it is true. In this program that I've been, one of the classes I took was Africa before colonialism, because I want to understand where we were before the rain started beating us. And I have found that even the Bible was written using old texts and things that were written by indigenous people. It is amazing how systematic this colonial enterprise is intentional and planned. Yeah. If people don't understand their history, if I know my history from someone else's writing of it, I have it all wrong. So the beginning, what we need to do is first understand our history. Go back and get to understand where you came from and who you are. Get to understand how the systems have shaped my thinking, our thinking, and then figure out what you're going to do about it. 3 West African Francophone nations today have said that they don't want anything to do with the French because the partnership, the agreements that they wrote when the French said that they are leaving have become these economic and exploitative systems that have kept them, that have kept many African nations where they are. Even things like the structural adjustment, whatnot, things like, I'm going to shock all of you, SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. Someone recently woke me up on this issue. A pregnancy, when you have a pregnancy, when a woman is carrying a baby, you cannot say that you want to keep that sustainable because the baby has to grow and come out. And even when they come out, they have to continue growing. What does sustainability mean? Keeping the status quo. We need to start understanding how the systems have conditioned us to think in certain ways and where this narrative is coming from. And dismantle that for ourselves. I'm telling you, it is not so difficult if people are willing to, and you know, even what they are calling discomfort for us in Africa, it's like when we destroy everything, are we going to eat money? You can't eat money. So you don't need money. You only need money in the current system and the way they are set up to continue exploiting and amassing and things like that. Look at the people who live in the Amazon, for example. You can live. This year, I have lived here every month with under $200 because the program wasn't giving me from Africa a lot of money to live on, but $200 a month. And I did it because I can survive on, and not even survive, thrive on $200. You know, it's a mindset and a heart set. And what I think I'm getting from the program to see whether I'm going to make that which I'm getting the most important thing, or the money that I'm making. And the money, the little or much that I get, what do I do with it? So what we need to do, Angela, is understand our history, understand who we are, stop. Our colonized minds have defined us, ourselves, the way we've been defined by the colonizer. We've also forgotten that both the colonized, or the oppressed and the oppressor, suffer from the circumstances that have been set up. So the Westerners, people from America, people from Europe, might think that, oh, those poor Africans, because that is what their media has told them. But they also need to listen to themselves. Oh, those poor, who is poor? Because what's the measure of poverty?
Right.
Poverty is like the wastelands. They are man-made. Poverty is man-made. I don't feel I am poor just because I don't live in Kenya, in a place like the one I'm living here, but I'm very happy in Kenya, living where I live. It's the language and the interpretation of what that means, and then internalizing it. So that's why I keep saying, get out of yourself, go within, and step into who you know you are. Because we know, even Westerners, they know who they are. They know they are not this system, but they also don't know what to do. So for me, that's the beginning thing, is I have decided. And then the other very important thing in agriculture is to start fighting, or going, I don't like using the word fighting, is creating another narrative for, like, I have chosen to grow my food organically. And I get seeds from my friends. Probably one day they will catch us and that kind of thing. But when I go back, I'm going to start raising awareness about why it is odd and weird for me to be told I can't get seeds from my friend,
Right.
who's been exchanging seeds every day,
Yeah.
or that a system that has survived since I don't know when, thousands and thousands of years, is now coming to tell us we can't keep our own animals and things like that. Number three, I am talking about food as medicine. So eat well so that you don't get sick, so that you don't have to take all these medicines.
Yeah.
Planting our foods wisely. We have so many plants that just eating them as a vegetable, taking teas from them, and that kind of thing is medicine for your body, you know? So those kinds of things. But the first thing is decolonizing our minds,
Yeah.
turning around this narrative that we have grown being taught, and recognizing, and it is so internalized. We are so colonized. The first person I tried to share a certain story with, a Kenyan, was the first one to tell me that gives me a headache. I'm not, I don't know what, because people don't want to think about it. But I tell you, we have to get some headache so that we can break the chains. They are so tight. We need to do something to free ourselves. Yeah.
What you have done is a model for all of us. And I know that Vandana Shiva, who was the first to talk about saving our indigenous seeds, I think it's happening many, many places. And we can just begin to raise up our voices of how we just share the seeds. How are they going to stop us from sharing the seeds? Even if we had to carry them in our pockets and quickly say, okay, here it is, there it is. You can't stop that kind of information. You can't stop the grassroots. So again, Karambu, Ringera, I hope someday, although I've traveled so much, I now call myself an armchair traveler. But maybe I can bring you down to Florida while you're here, and so that you can see our beautiful Everglades and talk to the people here. So we'll work on this. Remember, you're going to be here from August through October. You're willing to travel, and your recording will be for us to give to others to begin that conversation, because I think this is one of the most important conversations. What are my indigenous roots? Where is the colonization that was layered on me? And being able to get out of that to be able to be free, to be able to be the kind of leader we need to have. So a big hands together, applause, bowing to Karambu for all of what you've done for us and continue to do for us in just an hour conversation.